Due to following CS School Break Special, Magnum PI will not be seen today. It will be broadcast tomorrow in the regular time period.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for another Oh Yeah Trek Watch. John Suntress here, Mitch Halleck here. Franco on assignment at New York Comic-Con, but that's okay. He'll come back next week. And I do want to talk to you not only about this week's Lower Decks, Mitch, but also get your impressions of last week's episode. I read your text to me that you did enjoy it. If you want, we can start with the Lower Deck stuff, and then we'll get to all the other Trek news.
Sure, let's go there.
So last week, what did you think of Extremis?
I told you, based on last week, that was my favorite of all the Lower Decks I've seen in my life. And I said, if they were all like this, I wouldn't have lost my voice screaming about the show. And it was fine. It was set. You know what it was? It was great for them, but okay for other shows. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you never hit a home run in your life and you only hit singles, and then you finally hit a double, it's a big deal. It's not a home run, but it's a double. That's what this show did. They barely walk to first base, and for some reason they got hit with the pitch and they got on base without doing. I don't know. It was well done. There was a story. It was just a fun show.
No, I hear what you're saying, man. And Wayne already is
episode.
Chiming in about this week's episode. Absolutely. Yes. And we'll get to this week's episode. But I do think in general, there's been a marked improvement in the second season. And I think as much as, again, we're hypercritical, and I agree with you that in the realm of Lower Decks, it was one of the better episodes. Absolutely. And I like the general direction that the show is evolving to, in that Mariner's not the solution to every problem. In fact, last week was a great example of her getting her ass kicked, while Boimler and the others were doing much better in their various scenarios. Well, not so much Tendi, but Rutherford and everything. Yeah. And and in fact, really the entire season, including this week's episode, for all of us deep down Star Trek fans, Boimler, they make Boimler the fool a lot, but Boimler is actually a great Starfleet officer.
Yeah.
And is finally, I think, since the Titan being on the Titan, is shown, no, this guy knows what he's doing. He's competent. Yeah. And even episode 7 with the artificial intelligence they were fighting, and a few other times, it's like Boimler deserves to be the solution. And I'm very glad that that's been happening more. And even, again, now dovetailing into this week's episode, it as Vince said, it was a lot of fun seeing. It was a great idea to show us the other lower decks. I'll be honest, I would have rather they moved exclusively
to the Klingon one.
Yeah, because it reminded me. It reminded me of a Rick and Morty episode.
Yeah.
And you don't watch Rick and Morty, right?
No, I don't. No.
Okay. They have set up. Do you remember in John Hickman's Fantastic Four, there were the Council of Reeds, all the alternate, things. Okay, well, they have a citadel in the nexus of all the alternate universes in Rick and Morty. That's the Council of Ricks, and they're like, they get invited to go to the Council of Ricks to be involved in a big story, and instead, Rick and Morty are going to time travel to Atlantis, and they're like, gee, I wonder what's happening in the Citadel of Ricks, and the entire rest of the story was about the Citadel of Ricks. Had nothing to do with Atlantis. We never saw them in Atlantis. We only saw them leave and come back. And I wish they had done that with Lower Decks, because I really felt the Klingon story, the Vulcan story, were much more interesting than the bullshit with everybody, what they were doing. Although, again, nice to see at the end that actually Ransom, the second in command, has respect for Boimler. And tells that ensign or whatever he was that's screwing up, Boimler's the most organized guy in the ship. And that's great. That's good. Again, because I just think they're spreading the story out more, not just about Mariner. And that's good. I mean, and if anything, I think it's inspiring better ideas. So I think in general, that's fine. I didn't like last week as much as you liked the last week. But again, I thought it was decent. And again, I think a marked improvement and in the right direction. And I felt that way about this one. I thought 2/3 of it were great. I didn't care so much about the regular lower decks people this week.
When the show started this week and I saw that the title was written in Klingon, sadly that I knew that. As soon as I saw that, I go, oh, that looks like Klingon. Just a bunch of weird gibberish. And I said, well, this is a clever idea. If they did the whole episode like they're like the Bizarro Jerry episode, it's like there's the Bizarro version of them on a Klingon ship. I said, hey, this is actually pretty good. I mean, it's been done on other shows like, the Anti-Gilligan's Island, all these shows, they always do like the bad versions of them, it's like Mirror Mirror or something. And I said, why not? And I said, because the Klingons are always fun to make fun of because they're so damn serious about everything. It's like, oh, I hope this is a good day to die. It's like, then I started thinking of the whole Klingon culture, like, how do you function in that world if everything's about trying to kill each other? And it's like the Mirror Mirror universe. It's like, how do people get promoted? Why is there any type of hierarchy? Because everybody who's in charge is just a target,
Even more so going from I believe the 4th to the 5th season of Next Generation, when the Klingon Civil War is happening and War out of loyalty resigns and goes on the Klingon ship. And you see people challenging Galron and, they're at the bar and they're fighting. And you see the disgust in Worf's face of, hey, can we all focus, please? The Romulans are trying to screw us up. No. It's all about honor.
It's all about honor and blood. Yeah, it's like, what the hell? Yeah.
So, that's funny. Wayne wants to know, and no, we did not. Did we get a cold opening? We didn't. But
I didn't get one. No.
But I noticed it was like a 25-minute episode, and that's fine. I mean, I would rather them spend extra minutes on the big story. Rather than a 50-50 chance of whether a cold opening is
a goofy opening. Yeah.
So that didn't bother me. But yeah, man, no, that's the great thing and that's what I think informed the chaos of what was happening with the Klingon lower decks and all the shit that guy had to go.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, I was really, I will say this, genuinely impressed with how smart the Vulcan language was and consistent their Vulcan through line was much better than Discovery. Much better than Discovery. So, it's funny. Oh, Flicker Bucket says, I hope that the Vulcan officer becomes a regular.
Sure.
Why not? I love, and I never remember the name of the Darmok race, but I thought that was kind of cute that Boimler screwed up.
Well, what's funny when you're talking about the Klingon thing?
Yeah.
You know how we always try to say what's wrong with lower decks is they try to make jokes out of things that aren't funny. The Klingon stuff was funny because they were, I don't know how to describe it. They were like those things that we all like, oh, everything's a good day to die. This is a good day. I hope today I get stabbed on the bridge. And them saying it is just so ironic. It's funny because you're watching it going, Jesus, this nuts. You know what I mean? And that's where the humor came from, as opposed to Lower Decks for 2 seasons where their humor is just coming at you like beating you over the head with or slapping you in the face with a pie every week. Like, isn't this funny? Isn't this funny? And you're like, no, it's not. Stop hitting me in the face with a pie. The Klingon stuff was just well written. You know?
Yeah, like the blast shield.
And it was quiet.
Blast shield goes up, goes down, blast shield. And it's like, that's not funny.
And then the Vulcan thing, which is the opposite. So it's not all about aggression and violence. It's all about intellect. That was funny too, because it was subtle. It's like, I think I could play chess with you tonight, but I'm going to rewrite this whole 3-hour thing for the. It's just so nuts, you know.
But all of the Vulcan officers, like little moments of my instincts tell me or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's code for my emotions are telling me, or I've got a feeling. Right. And again, it was played serious and countered with real Vulcan kind of straight talk. Of no, I'm sorry, that's not the way. And also, I love that she inadvertently quoted Spock, who said, "Logic is not the end; it's the beginning."
Yeah,
and then you find the solution, and then that's the Spock lesson, and that's great.
And she was the Mariner of their show, which I was funny. I was like, she's the one that's doing everything against everything. But I got to just jump real quick to the end, then we'll go back. But notice how they were all rewarded for being a jerk and not following the rules. Like Mariner does it every week, but she doesn't go anywhere. There's no like talk. And then the odd thing is they were talking in the beginning of the show. It's like, oh, you want to buddy up with one of the bridge people to help you get promoted. She doesn't want to get promoted. We've already been through that thing. So I'm like, what would she care about buddying up with anybody? And then, there she is with her mom, which I thought was funny. They were screaming at each other.
Yeah, it was her mom's idea. It wasn't her idea. She had
okay.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh, the mom is the said bridge buddies. That's where that came from.
Well, that's the reason why we saw them together. Was she's like, oh, I got to spend more time with my mother.
Yeah. But no, all the other characters, like the Vulcan person that bucked the system, she gets rewarded at the end. The Klingon guy becomes the captain at the end.
No, she did not get rewarded.
Well, she got pushed onto a Starfleet thing.
Right. Which in reward. No, I didn't, because it was like, no, you're not. She's like, fine, I'll go back to Vulcan. No, you're not going back to Vulcan. Bad news. You got to deal with Starfleet people.
Oh, see, I looked at it as like that would be a good place for her because she's not with them, and I guess you could look at it like that. They couldn't deal with her, so they got rid of her. Yeah. Okay.
I saw it as they're like, you're a problem. Easiest solution to your problem is to put you with more illogical people. Or we're putting you with the Starfleet people.
Okay.
So, and in fact, Wayne agrees and says she does not get rewarded because Starfleet is considered a demotion.
Well, at first I thought they were going to make her captain of her own ship. That's where I thought he was going with it.
Did you really?
Yeah, when he said, "Oh, a person like you with your skills should be here," and I'm like, "Oh, the logical thing would be to put her in charge," but then like now we're going to reassign you.
And that's as Flick Bucket says, or Flicker Bucket, excuse me. Basically, she was flipping him off with the Vulcan salute, like, "Yeah, live long and prosper."
Yeah, she gave him the Mariner. She's like I said, she was the Mariner of the Vulcan ship. Yeah.
And that's why it's like, no, you're not getting rewarded for your bad behavior. And in fact, she saved the day in spite of this captain's attitude towards her. And I don't think he was crazy about that, despite the fact that everything worked out. So regardless, it was fun. And I even love the last joke of the Borg doing the Borg.
Yeah, with the credits rolling. The Borg lower decks, and they're just there. And I was waiting for something to happen. I go, this is funny in itself because nothing's going to happen. So.
I didn't stay till the very. Well, actually, I did, and I didn't hear it. I was expecting one flicker of a light, and one maybe beep.
Yeah, maybe that was it. Yeah.
Something, but nothing. No, and that's good. That's good.
You know what's weird that happened today? It cut to a final commercial right in the middle of the scene today. I was like, what is that? It's like
that's really
the captain was talking, and she said something, or maybe it was the Vulcan person. They said, you're going to see how it is to be on and it just cut to my commercial. And then I'm like, what the hell was that? And then it cuts back to the show, and it was in the midst of that scene. And then I saw the last 2 seconds what that scene was. And then it went to something. I'm like, don't you think they have a better way to end the scene breaks or something like that? So,
honestly, that used to happen with both Discovery and Lower Decks.
Okay.
Previous seasons with my commercials. I don't know if I upgraded. What happened? I think I did, actually. I think I combined my Showtime and Paramount. Because I did that, I'm now getting Paramount with no commercials.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I haven't tried it with the newer shows, so I don't know. But well, with the exception of Lower Decks, but any like CBS shows or anything like that.
Yeah.
But regardless, no, that used to happen to me where you'd see where the natural break was for the
Yeah.
commercial.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would go into the next scene for not even a minute, and then all of a sudden there's the commercial, and it's
Yeah.
like, fix it. What are you doing?
Well, especially with a comedy show, because it's all about timing and everything, and the punchline and the button of the scene, and all of a sudden you're out of it, and like, wait, what? And then it cuts back, and like, well, the timing's off now, so
I totally know what you mean. Absolutely.
So yeah.
So,
So
hey,
believe it or not, 2 weeks in a row, I like the show. I mean, I know what's happening.
To break it to you, but we only have one more week of Lord.
I know it finally started becoming somewhat decent. I wouldn't say great. I wouldn't say good. I'd say tolerable.
Improving.
You know? Improving.
Hey, honestly, man, and I know you feel the same way. We want Star Trek
that
we like. We want this.
I don't want to turn on something that hate it. No.
At least, and it'll be interesting to see how they resolve the season. I don't know. And I like the Packlids coming back in the story.
Yeah, I saw that. So who knew that was a subplot all along? I mean, wow, they actually tried
last year.
Yeah.
Going back to last year when
you mentioned it a couple times, and I was like, yeah, I guess they're doing that. But then it all came together. I'm like, wow, they really strung this along. If you were paying attention, there was a whole Packlid thing. I like how their ship is called Packlid. It's like they don't even have a name for it. It's the Packlid ship. Packlid.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. All right. So just so you know, so today is the 10th or the 7th.
Yeah.
14th is next week for the last episode. And then we'll have just over a month before the next Discovery. November 18th is when Discovery starts.
Where's Prodigy?
Now, let me see when that's a good question. When does Prodigy start?
Yeah.
I
said fall.
Yeah. No, you're right. Maybe it will be first. I don't know.
I was going to ask you. You didn't pay attention to who wrote this episode because I was curious after I liked it to go back to last week's to see if it was the same writer because I said maybe
I didn't look.
That's the key to these 2 episodes being tolerable. That was the same writer, you know. No, and what I noticed? Did you notice this too? The reason why it didn't suck so much or get annoying is the main Lower Decks crew weren't together. They were paired off with other members of the Cerritos, and I go, oh, maybe that's the key to this show. Maybe it's not to have them together screaming at each other. Maybe it's like this guy, Rutherford, was with the Bajoran guy, and she was with her mom, and he was with Ransom, and then even the other girl was climbing the El Capitan with the cat lady. So
right, but Boimler was showing up in each of their.
Yeah. But it wasn't the whole show. It was just.
No, I hear what you're saying. No, yeah. I don't. Maybe I don't know. Regardless, I'm glad they're spreading the story out and trying other things other than Mariner's the badass and
yeah.
You know. I also wow. Okay, Mario liked it as well. He thinks it makes it 4 straight. Yeah, I mean, again, I liked it enough that I would give it at least 2.5.
Yeah. Out of 5 or 3? What are we talking here?
Well, definitely more than like either 4 or 5. I suppose. I'd say out of 4.
I'd say 4 out of 5. I'd say 3.5 out of 5. Yeah, would never give it a 5.
No, but I mean, like I said, I liked the Collector episode. I think that was a really clever episode.
It was, yeah.
Well, I'll save it for next week or whatever to when we go and probably review the whole season and maybe look back at each episode. But a couple things. First of all, and I know we'll talk about it next week because it'll be the day after it happens if we broadcast on Thursday. But next Wednesday, Captain Kirk really goes to space.
I know. I got one question. Do you think they're paying him for it?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Because I know the ticket isn't it like $250,000 if you want to get on. Or is that Elon? One of the billionaire ships. It's like $250,000 a ticket. I don't know which one.
I have a feeling. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I think basically knowing what I've seen of Shatner,
right,
especially in the last 20 years, anything that looks like an interesting challenge, he's up for it. And I know making that Captain's TV series and movie documentary.
Yeah.
There's a Canadian airline that might be a private airline called Bombardier or some shit like that. And he met the president. The president just gushed about how much of a Star Trek fan he was. And so they made the arrangement that to make the Captain's documentary, and with all the traveling he had to do, he worked with Bombardier, and I think they took care of all of his flying and stuff.
Yeah.
He believes that Shatner is getting paid. that it could be. I think it's mutually beneficial for both
Oh,
Bezos
yeah.
and Shatner himself, and I think that's great, man. That's fantastic, and also that he's 90. I've been saying
Yeah.
all week.
Yeah.
John Glenn, when he went back on the shuttle in the 90s, it was like, he was like either in his 60s or 70s.
70s, I think it was. Yeah, he wasn't that old. Yeah.
So, and also, I don't know if you've watched any of these videos lately. Sorry, Mitch. And then
No, go ahead. Which video?
I was going to say, Shatner's been on the press beat lately because they re-released the first 4 Star Trek movies in 4K.
Yep.
And god damn, he for 90.
I know.
Mitch, he looks younger than us.
I know. I sit there all the time. I go, I'm 55. If I freaking looked half as good as he does at this age, I'd be happy. But he's got his wits about him, because I just met him last time I saw him. I think it was 2 years ago in New York. I did a show and he was there and we talked for a couple seconds. And
oh, great.
Shatner's. I mean, look. I've from day one, from years ago, I got it. He's a working man, and what I mean by that is, he didn't have money. There was a point of his life where he was living in his camper or his truck out in the middle, and he had 3 or 4 kids, and things weren't going well with the marriage.
Doing dinner theater across the country.
Yeah. So God bless them. Whenever anybody down on their luck, and then they turn it around and they get money, God bless them, because I mean, no one wants to struggle. So I'll never take that away from the guy. But let me tell you, he doesn't get out of bed for free. It's always like there's some type of paycheck, because I dealt with him trying to get him for my Terrificon this year, and you knew that. I was telling you all the updates and stuff, but it just came down to what we could do and how much money was involved and all this. And hey, I'm not going to criticize the guy for trying to make $1, but when you're 90 and they offer you to go to space, even for like 5 minutes, I know he's not orbiting the Earth, I know he's not going to the moon, but he's leaving the atmosphere. Is going to be weightless. He's going to be up there. He's going to see the Earth, not the full thing, but a good portion of the curvature of the whole thing. That's just something you and I just dream about since we were born, since, the first time we could figure out what's up there, anybody. And he's getting to do that. So you're right. There is probably a part of him that's in awe. I think, how could you not be, that you're going to be in space?
I'm looking forward to hearing it. I didn't watch, he was on Anderson Cooper last night talking about it.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. But no, you're right. I think he's very clear-minded, and he's in a better mental place than Stan Lee at the end.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But no, I can also appreciate. I'm sure he's thinking about legacy and his grandchildren and what he can leave behind. And I mean, he's got his high-end
the horses.
Yeah. Good Lord, can you imagine? The upkeep on that. Absolutely. So Wayne says Shatner wasn't as annoying as he usually is at the Star Trek Con this year, and I'm assuming he means Vegas. Whatever. Again,
hey man, 90 years old, you come to realize you got less days in front of you than you got more days behind you than you do in front of you. So maybe you just get a perspective on things, and you don't become such a crotchety SOB or something.
Yeah. Well, and again, as Wayne says, he has his wits about him, no question.
Yeah.
Because every interview I've seen with the 4K stuff, he's razor sharp. He's sharper than several of the younger interviewers.
Oh yeah, definitely so.
Yeah, I won't name platforms, but truly, it's like, boy, you half-assed it, and thank God Shatner was there to pick you up. And
I do like how Bill Shatner still got his. He doesn't tolerate fools, if that's a nice way of putting it. So if you're giving him softball questions, he'll throw it right back. He's like, "Come on, what are we doing here? Why are you wasting my time with this?" He'll just tell you. He's not being mean, but it's like, look, you got him so many minutes to interview him. Why are you doing stupid questions that he's been asked a million times? Like, what's it like to be Captain Kirk? It's like, come on, that's the best you got.
Honestly, that was my attitude about, and he was mean to people that were interviewing him that were idiots. Jerry Lewis, and it's like,
yeah.
There was that great Hollywood Reporter interview. And I mean, literally, a kid that I have no idea what his background was prior to this, but it's like, this is Jerry Lewis. He is an icon. Yeah. And it's kind of sad that you're not real. And it's, what was it like being a star in the 40s?
I know. I see those things sometimes and I cringe. I go, dude, come on, man. You got somebody's had a 40, 50-year career and you're asking them these questions that that's the best you got. You didn't do your homework that night.
And Lewis, it was like a 70-year career. I mean, it's like, the guy's in the 90s. And truly, especially when he was promoting that last movie, Max Rose, that he made. And also, one of my favorite things, it's on YouTube and it's long form. it's kind of a post Q&A after an audience saw the movie, and he took questions, and he started much like Shatner, very razor sharp, very cogent, very in the moment. And he's like, listen, this is a little movie. The only way this thing is going to get momentum is word of mouth. So we really want to hear what you think. And we really hope if you like the movie that you will share it with other people and blah, blah, blah. And then they went to the audience and it was, Jerry, I've loved you since I was 5.
Yeah.
And, and one guy's like, I'm a clown and I take a lot of inspiration from you. And I'm like, yeah, you are a clown.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Star Trek.
No. And Shatner himself, though. But like I said, it's such a. I just told you last week I was in D.C. I went down and saw the Air and Space Museum that they have over at the Dulles Airport, the bigger one. There's 2. There's the one that's in the mall that has, the moon landing and the Kitty Hawk and Chuck Yeager's plane. But if you go 40 minutes away near the airport, there's a big National Space Museum, what is it? The Smithsonian Air and Space Museum.
Yeah,
and there was the Discovery, the Space Shuttle Discovery. There was the Concorde. There was the stealth plane, the Blackbird.
Wow.
All that stuff. And it's just amazing because you see some of them are so tiny. You're like, there's the Spirit of St. Louis. You're like, wait a minute, come on now. That thing's the size of a Volkswagen, and he flew it across the ocean.
Yeah, it was a one-man plane.
Yeah, and I'm with my son, and I love this. He's like 21. He's like, oh, I thought it'd be bigger. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, the space shuttle. I go, that's a space shuttle. That thing went up into space tons of times and came back. He's like, it's not that big. I'm like, what are you talking? Your mind's blown, and like, that's the thing that you're getting from this.
Yeah,
stuff.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's all right. That's it. Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon was bigger at Disney World. It's like that's not real,
Exactly.
So,
I hear you, man. Absolutely. And again, I'm a total nerd for.
Oh, I got chills. I actually said, how goofy is this? We walked in and there's the Blackbird in front of us. I got goosebumps because I go, oh, the fastest plane ever built, and there it is. It's like within your reach. Like that's the Blackbird. That's the thing that used to fly over Russia and just torment those people with spy planes. And there's the capsules, the Mercury capsules and the Gemini capsules, and they're the size of a freaking bathtub. And you're like, oh my God, they had to sit in that thing and on top of a rocket.
For days. And the other thing puts her in space, for 3 days or whatever it was back and forth.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? We have the in Chicago, we have the Air and Water Show off over Lake Michigan, and we've got a couple naval bases close by and stuff. And I feel the same way when I see the giant, the Blue Angels come.
Yep, there was a Blue Angel jet there. Yeah.
They fly in formation.
Yeah.
And where I live is in the flight path, so I don't have to go to the beach.
Nice.
To watch the show. I literally will sit at one of the local Starbucks.
Yeah.
I look to the sky, and after they, because obviously they're going so fast that they continue, and they're still in formation, flying by my area and stuff, which is 10 minutes away from the beach. So I love that stuff. It blows my mind, and it's so exciting to see.
I know. We grew up in that magic age when they were still landing on the moon. I mean, I remember coming home from first or second grade in the early 70s, and there's like an Apollo moon lawn. And even then, it wasn't getting major news by that time. It was like, oh yeah, tonight on Walter Cronkite, Apollo.
That's true. You're a couple of years younger because I really do remember. I remember the moon landing.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
Moon landing. It was amazing, and my parents were very smart.
Yeah.
Because I was 4, and are just like pointing to the window and like you see the moon, and it's like do you see the TV? Yeah. Well, those guys are on the moon.
I know. Right?
Yeah,
I know. And that's the thing.
I got it. And my grandfather.
Yeah.
Who came to America before the Wright brothers flew to Kitty Hawk. Still with us. And I just thought, really, in retrospect, I'm like, wow, that man read the headlines when we first took flight and then actually saw us leave the planet and step on another foreign object other than the Earth. That's why a lot of my sports radio friends, we were going to Vegas like in 99 or 2000, and we were talking about the turn of the millennium. And they're like, so what was the greatest accomplishment of the 20th century? And I'm like, men on the moon. Like, oh, no.
Oh, come on.
I'm like, what is bigger than men on the moon?
Well, splitting the atom was up there too. I mean,
that's that's fair. Their brains were not there.
Yeah.
So what Yeah, do you guys remember the line from Right
Oh yeah,
Stuff?
spam in a can.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, the whole
Well,
thing about that, I love that movie. That movie's a
oh
lot of fun.
yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
unfortunately, Philip Kaufman was supposed to make a Star Trek movie
No, really?
in the
When?
70s.
Before or
Yeah,
after that?
before it was called Attack of the Titans, and it's one of those unrealized Star Trek movie projects that
Is
didn't
there a
happen.
script?
Yes.
Is it online?
I haven't searched for it. I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
But Mark Altman's oral histories of Star Trek in the first 50-year portion, the first book,
Yeah.
they talk about it and they give plot points and everything.
No kidding. I didn't know that. Wow,
I believe
Kaufman would
that
have been
was
great.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. It's a shame. I believe the story had to do with time travel and that things were screwed up and they had to fix things. And among the things they had to fix was the Kennedy assassination.
Oh, I think I heard this story. Was
And
Spock takes the shot?
Yep, Spock's on the grass.
Yes, I've heard this, and they were like, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't have Spock kill Kennedy." I heard this before. Huh.
Todd's got a comment here. First time I saw a space shuttle was when the cast of Star Trek were unveiling.
Yep.
Although
I remember watching that on TV. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, I really appreciated that, but as we all know, it wasn't a real.
It was a prototype. It was just
the prototype.
Yeah, that they landed. Yeah.
It just went off from the 747 and basically.
But it was still cool to see. I remember watching that. Young and Crippen were the captains on that ship, and I remember they landed and they had Uhura there, and they had them all there, and they played the music and the Enterprise. And I remember my sister's like, she's older than me. She goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "Look, the Enterprise," and they showed it landing. I was like, "Yeah, it's such a big deal," but everyone was like, "Yeah, okay."
I also have to confess, especially being a kid that grew up during the Apollo program, that the shuttle did become ordinary.
Yeah, it did. It became a truck in space.
Yeah.
It did. It's like it went up, it came down. It went up, it came. Even though the thought of even going up into space is amazing because you don't know what could happen, and then to land safely again and then do it again, that's an accomplishment. You're like,
well, and unfortunately, we did see what could happen.
Yeah, I know.
I was in college when the Challenger exploded.
So was I. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I just remember. And then the Columbia too. I remember that. My son was 2 and we were at the YMCA. He was taking swim lessons. And I remember walking out and the news was on that the Columbia had just blown up on reentry. I was like, wow.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, these are, and again, God forbid, I mean, knock on wood, nothing happens to Shatner. Because I was like, you don't want to be that guy next week on the 12th if it goes up and there's a problem. And, I'm like, it'll be safe. It'll be fine.
God forbid, but I think it is safe, and I look forward to hearing him and watching him do it all.
But you know what, though? We just talked about, you said how ordinary the shuttle became. Honestly, John.
Oh, you know it.
These guys that are blowing up into space every couple of days now, the Musks and the Sir Branson, Richard Branson, and then the other guy from Amazon. It's when did you ever think it would become this commonplace like every other day on the news? It's like today, the owner of Amazon went up into space.
Yeah, in our lifetime, no, I didn't think so. However, because of Star Trek, and growing up during Apollo, it made sense to me. Where I'm like, well, 300.
Yeah, now it's a Disney ride.
Sure. Yeah, well, I don't feel that way. I don't feel. What I do think is interesting, and it was funny because they ran 2001 yesterday on Turner.
Okay.
And you do all the early stuff of 2001 with Dr. Floyd taking the shuttle from the moon back to Earth or vice versa. And it's basically like an airline flight. And then Ad Astra from a couple of years ago, Brad Pitt. Yep. I loved all that.
I thought that was a great movie.
Well, but I also liked how traveling to the moon did become normal.
Yeah.
And the airport looked like any airport.
It did. Yeah. I think there was a Subway. Wasn't there a Subway sandwich shop in there?
And a DHL shipping.
That's it. Yeah. All the the stuff you see now. Yeah.
But then they're also like, there's really bad, the dark side of the moon is really kind of ungainly.
Yeah, like the Wild West. Yeah.
And everybody in the moon buggy is shooting at each other. I thought.
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting to watch Shatner next week. All right. And I did buy, here it is.
What is that?
On my tablet.
Oh, you were talking about that. I heard you say that. I watched the show last week and you said you were reading that where they bring all the Star Trek's time together.
Yeah, it's interesting because since Deep Space Nine ended, the books started their own canon because the thought was, well, they're never going to go back to Deep Space Nine. So at first it was all about Deep Space Nine moving the story forward. Then when Voyager ended, they did the same thing with Voyager. And then again, not expecting, especially when it seemed like Patrick Stewart was never going to come back to Star Trek.
Yeah.
Then you got the Titan books, and then you got a new next gen books of Picard on the Enterprise E, which
okay.
Which is a Nemesis and his crew. And there are really, and again, it's almost been 20 years since they started with the Deep Space Nine books. And in the book canon, and this is what is wrapping up. There's going to be 3 books. They're going to wrap up this canon. But in the preface, I didn't read a lot of these books, but I am going to go back and read them. Again, this is just book canon. Picard and Beverly get married.
Oh, wow.
And have a child.
Well, she's kind of old for that, but sure, why not?
It's the 24th century. Who the fuck knows? Maybe they fixed all. Again, you got twice as long of life expense.
That kid will be going out of Starfleet Academy, and he'll be 90. It's terrible. Oh, wait a minute. I guess it's okay. It's not like Tony Randall having kids when he's 87 or something.
Yeah. Well, and it's there was a whole big Section 31 conspiracy that the president of the Federation was involved with that screws over the Andorians. There's a bunch of stuff in the preface that I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to be reading about 10 other books that I haven't read.
Oh, yeah.
You know what?
Honestly, I don't know why I say I wish I had the time. I wish there was like a pandemic and we were home and we had nothing to do and I can catch up on all my oh, wait a minute, that happened already. Because there was always like stacks. I'm looking at stacks of books around me. Like, I'm going to read that when I get the time. Dude, we had more time than we wanted in the last year and a half. I don't know what.
No, I hear you, man.
I wish there was a way. Why don't they invent this? You could put a chip in your head that'll give you the entire book in your head, so you feel like you've read it without actually spending hours reading. Like, beep! Oh wow, that was a good story. I mean,
yeah, but also I would miss I love the immersive experience of reading.
Yeah,
because when I'm reading, I'm on the ship with these people, especially Star Trek stuff. And I finished the Deep Space Nine book about Ben Maxwell, and it was good. It wasn't
you told me about the guy from the Tin Drum one. The one that was attacking the Kardashians.
The Departed.
I thought it was a different name. Okay.
The Drumhead is the one you're thinking of. That's where Gene Simmons plays the Admiral, and she's on the witch hunt.
Yeah.
Departed is the one where it's O'Brien's old captain.
Yep.
Who he fought in the old Cardassian War and is starting to think that they're regrouping and the irony is
he was right.
Ben Maxwell was right. It was just at the wrong time. And that plays out a lot in the book. And it's good. It was Ben is on it's more of a healthcare facility than a penal colony. And his doctors are sympathetic to him, but also trying to help him kind of get past that disgrace and everything. And O'Brien is one of the few people he allows to visit him and stuff and stay in contact with him.
That's cool.
And it's him and Nog going to this space station to go visit him and stuff.
Who's writing those? It's not Peter David, is it? No. He used to write a ton of those.
Oh yeah, no, it's a different writer. No, and I'll say Peter David's Star Trek books are amazing.
They were great. I always they would be so well. Sometimes I would forget if that was an episode or the books. I'd be like, wait a minute, was that a Q episode that it was not? No, that was a book. So I mean, that's how well written they were.
Oh
they
yeah,
kind of blend together. Yeah.
No,
and that he was at my show once years ago. Michael Jan Friedman. He was at one of my earlier conventions. He's a nice guy. He did a lot of good Trek books.
Mike's been on the show twice, and we've gotten to know each other a bit. And I always tell him he continues to write really interesting genre fiction. He has a series about what if the Aztec civilization never went away.
Oh,
so it's in modern day, and there's a modern day Aztec detective, and that was a really interesting story. He just wrote part of, and a bunch of other writers did a prose anthology of new superhero stories, and that was really cool.
Oh, okay.
And time it's like, I'm going to bother you about Star Trek, and he's like, yeah, no problem.
Why are they wrapping the Star Trek timelines up? They're going to relaunch it again
because it conflicts with what they've.
Yeah, I know, but Star Wars does that too. But why stop the revenue stream? I mean, they're making money.
I think they want the books to reflect, and they have been making Discovery books and Picard books. Now they're going to do Strange Worlds. I think they want the books to fit the canon, as it did up until 20 years ago.
It did, yeah.
I mean, they could easily slip in between episodes, and same goes with the comics as well.
Yep.
So I don't mind that. That's okay. And it has diverted so much from where we are in the TV shows and the films that why not? That's fine.
I
Yeah,
do.
also, they've been doing it for 20 years, man.
Well, I tell you, there is a problem with that too, because it happened with Star Wars. Because I used to read every Star Wars book there was, but the problem is, you become so ingrained in that stuff that you're reading about, like the new aliens and the new rules and the new history and all that stuff, that when you go to watch the movies or the TV shows that come after it, and they're not in sync,
right?
You're almost like disturbed, like, wait a minute, you can't do that because stormtroopers don't do that. Well, where did it say that in the movie? Well, it wasn't in the movies, it was in the books. And I go, yeah, well, that's the problem. The movies are the movies. That's legit. The books are nice, but they're not legit. But for a while they were telling you it was. So you're like, I gotta read this because this is canon. This is canon.
And again, in current, as far as the Lucasfilms, area of Disney, the books are vetted to be in canon. So, and I believe Star Trek is taking that same attitude with new stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. And again, I mean, that's the thing. It's funny, ironic that you say that about the old Star Wars books, because Art Baltazar and Scott McMahon, podcasts and stuff, they were in Cincinnati at the CincyCon, and Timothy Zahn was there.
Oh, he's great.
So they had conversations with Timothy.
Yeah. No, I used to read when that came out. I remember being at the bookstore the first day, the first Heir to the Empire book came out, and it was like, oh, a Star Wars novel. And everything was crazy.
Sorry, man. I don't mean.
No, it's all right. You got another Trek watch, I guess.
You're not boring. I've done a million shows.
Oh, good God, I am. I'm like watching paint dry. That's fine.
Well, no, but also I was going to say earlier this week I spoke to J.M. DeMatteis, and it's here on the Woodland feed for anyone who didn't see it. And I didn't realize. Last year I knew he was doing a story for IDW, and he did a 40-page Mirror Universe comic book about Khan in the Mirror Universe, and it was really well done. And Matthew Dow Smith drew it. And
I love Matt. Yeah,
great artist.
He's been at my shows. Yeah,
and I thought, kind of like Mike Friedman, not as many as stories as Mike Friedman. I thought Mark DeMatteis, had done a lot of Star Trek stuff, and he's like, no, I've only written 2 stories.
Oh, see, I thought he did the comic books for DC.
So did I. But no, he did one. He did one Marvel Star Trek comic, and then this IDW one. So that's great. Here, Mitch, I'm gonna let Wayne, because this is off topic, but okay. Mitch, he loved your review, but
thank you
about Venom. Cool.
Yeah, we saw that last Thursday. That's why I wasn't on the show, because Jerry and I were at the movies.
How was it? Without spoiling,
it sucked. There you go. You know what's funny? I'm going to tell you this. Jerry Ordway, who has something nice to say about everything and everybody. He didn't tell you Hitler liked dogs just to get away with it. Like, well, Hitler, he liked dogs. Oh, okay. We walk out of that movie. I go to put the recorder on, and he's silent. And I'm like, Jerry, you got to talk. It's a podcast. It takes 2 of us here. It's not a monologue. And he goes, well, my mom told me if you don't have anything nice to say about something, don't say anything at all. So you knew right then and there that he wasn't going to like it. And, I told him right in the beginning of the podcast, and I put it last Thursday, we saw it, and I didn't put the show out till Monday because we didn't want to spoil anything. We're not like those people that ruin everything 10 seconds after it's out. Yeah. But I said, you watch, Jerry, this movie's going to make, and you can hear me, I think it's going to make 70 or 80 million. It made 90 million. And I said, it's going to be like Aquaman, which is another movie that he and I laughed at. Said, this is one of the dumbest movies we've ever seen. And I said, it'll make like 90. Aquaman made $1 billion. This thing made 90 million. And I said to him, you know what? There comes a point when I think we're going to have to throw the towel in and realize that they're not making this movie for 55-year-old guys and 62-year-old men like me and Jerry. That lights came on, and it was all full of teenagers and 20-year-olds, and they were laughing at the movie. They had some jokes. I go, are we watching the same movie here? Because it was a throwback to those 90s superhero films. Remember those ones we would cringe at? Like, give me some bad ones. Spawn. Exactly. Spawn is a perfect example. This was like a Spawn movie. It's like when Hollywood didn't want to make superhero movies because they thought they were made for like 12-year-olds, they're like, oh, this is not a good market. This is for kiddies. It was like that cheesy Captain America movie and the bad Fantastic Four movie, that type of thing. That's what this movie was like. It was like a throwback to Meteor Man. Remember that one?
Yes,
That was I can't
Robert
think of his name.
Townsend.
Robert Townsend. This movie had all those tropes in it, like I'm a super guy. I'm gonna do that, and you're like, we've come so far. You got the Dark Knight, you've got the Avengers, you've got Winter Soldier. Why? And this was up there with like the Punisher movie. I see he mentioned there. Yeah, but people liked it, maybe because they never watched those movies. They didn't grow up with that stuff. They think this is new. Where you and I would sit there and go, this is up there with that cheesy Superman Quest for Peace type of movie with the gags and the jokes, and that's what it was like to watch it.
Or no, Meteor Man was the Robert Townsend.
The one with what was the one they did with William Macy and Ben Stiller?
Oh yeah, God damn it!
It had all like the construction worker.
It's Flaming Carrot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mystery Men.
That one I always had the greatest potential. Like I thought it was going to be great because it seemed like cool, but it just didn't come together.
I like Mystery Men actually. I think it's pretty funny. And
it
again,
could have been better. I thought.
Oh no, 100% it could have been better. But I thought there was enough interesting stuff in it that it was okay.
Yeah.
And also knowing that it was a parody and everything.
Yeah, but no, Venom 2 is, and whatever. It is what it is. It's not for me. That's
I asked Bendis, I'm like, have you been to a theater yet? He's like, no.
Oh.
And no, and I understand. And there's,
Well, we're down to 1.6, 1.7 here in Connecticut, and we got like 86% of the population vaccinated. So I'm like, we're pretty good around here. So, where I'm at. Hey, I just went to University of Maryland football game with my son last Friday night. There was like 50,000 people shoulder to shoulder packed in the stadium screaming, watching Iowa kill the Maryland team. There was no masks. I'm like, yikes. You know what I mean?
What Maryland's doing.
Well, Maryland was doing okay, but they got killed in that game, 51-7. It was painful.
No. I mean.
Number wise, COVID wise.
Yeah, COVID wise.
They're doing pretty good. They're one of the lower numbers for the country.
It's kind of like I remember during bird flu, Louis Black saying, "Yeah, great. All we need is some asshole from Formosa who forgot to wipe his ass after going to the bathroom, and he comes off the boat shaking hands. How you doing?
Yeah.
And truly, I think every state, no matter how safe that state is, given that we have open borders, we're just one Texas or Florida person coming and screwing everything up again. I don't know.
Well, the other extreme is my friend in Australia that I do a show with every 2 weeks in a podcast. They can't go anywhere. They've been on lockdown. I saw a report. They were like locked down for 257 days out of a year. Oh my God, that was it. And I'll call them up and I'll say, what's that? Oh, we're on snap lockdown. They call it, like out of a sudden. That's it. Don't go out of your house today.
Well,
what? And if you go out, you have to take your phone and you have a barcode, like a QR code. So if I go down the street to get gasoline, beep, I have to tell them I'm there. If I go stop and get bread, beep, I'm over. And I said to him, what is that all about? He said, well, it's for your own safety. And that sounds like very science fiction-y, kind of Orwellian. Like, what do you mean? He goes, well, they have to know where we are at all times. I go, well, they already do know where you are at all times with your phone, technically.
No, but again, I mean, Bob Arum, the boxing promoter, was saying the same thing. That isn't it? Once again, and I'm sorry, everybody. We don't mean to.
No, I know we're going off on a tangent.
But truly, this is another example of the ugly Americans because the government did everything they can to make sure that we have enough vaccine for the entire country, and we've got these assholes. And I'm sorry, but you're an asshole if you're not getting vaccinated. Well, it's my private rights. It's like, no, you are fucking the country, and you're keeping us from truly being healthy because of your personal choice. And there's been too many other vaccines in the past.
I know.
Like measles and polio.
Measles,
and it's just like, again, it's become this political thing.
It has.
Because of a handful of people that are assholes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are enough people that follow these assholes that they feel emboldened and go, well, yeah, it's my right.
Yeah.
Okay. But again, I mean, I
hear you.
National Public Radio had a couple scientists saying it might eventually devolve COVID to seasons like flu season of, all right, it's time to get your COVID shot.
I can see that. Yeah.
And there are going to be people that take it and feel fine. And there are people who aren't and who might get sick and may die. And it's like, and even Bob Arum's pushing 90. He's like, I can't have sympathy for people that are not, just following normal science. And I mean, it's a boxing promoter that gets it.
Yeah.
So,
It's so funny. My friend in Canada, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, he comes to the show every year, except this year because he couldn't get here because of all the rules to leave Canada. I was talking to him the other day about how things are, and he's another one. His province is like 80-something%, and they've got rid of a lot of restrictions because the numbers are down. And I said, "Oh, what about the people that haven't got vaccinated?" And he says, "Hey, that's their choice. That's their right. I don't care." And I'm like, "Wow, really?" And suddenly it's like it's come down to that stark thing where you get a very nice person, nothing ill towards anybody, but suddenly it's like, hey, it's there, it's available, it's free. You could save other people besides yourself, but if you don't want to do it, that's your choice. If you want to die, go at it. See ya. And he just boom. And I'm like, wow, I guess that's what's happening. People, it's either yes or no, and the hell with you. So
Snyder and I were talking about some of the culture war stuff, and it's like because he's like, well, maybe he goes, probably the 60s was worse than the way it was now. I mean,
probably
in different ways, it's almost apples and oranges because we could at least agree why things were happening in the 60s. You might disagree in terms of the people that were instigating or the people that wanted more rights or whatever, but everyone agreed on the reality. In today's world, there are two realities, and you're not going to convince those who disagree with you.
No.
Otherwise. And that's
there's
insane.
There's no room for debate. There's no room for trying to talk to each other. It's just either my way or the highway, and they're very aggressive about whose side.
Which to bring it back to Star Trek.
Star Trek, yeah, let's go back to Star Trek.
Honestly, well, no, but I will pull it even with what we're talking about right now. We got a glimpse of that in the last season of Enterprise, where there was still the xenophobia of Earth. Not accepting the fact that the Federation hadn't been formed yet, but that Starfleet was reaching out to these other planets, and you saw Phlox get beaten up and xenophobic Earthers, and you had people like Colonel Green and Paul Weller's character in Enterprise in that last two-parter before the Riker episode ran the series, and it's a shame that period isn't explored more. I do know another movie that was proposed, and it was proposed by my buddy Rob Burnett and a couple other filmmakers to look at that early period. And there was even going to be a Kirk ancestor in their story, but essentially really getting to, the very beginnings of the Federation and some of the spatial politics that were happening back then. And again, I think that's just an era that I would love to see Star Trek explore more. And there's the opportunity, because they clearly, with New Trek, want to reflect the problems of our times. And I think that is an area where, as old fans, we would accept that because it's already been established in Enterprise. And in fact, Wayne points out even the Vulcans weren't impressed with Earth during Enterprise. Right. I mean,
no, they wouldn't let them. Yeah, they wouldn't share technology because they said it's been so many years since Zefram Cochrane met them on First Contact that they still were holding back technology because they didn't trust the humans, or the Earthers. I always thought that was cool too. It's like, screw those Vulcan people. What the fuck,
And also the way the Vulcans were treating the Andorians as well. The Andorians were paranoid about the Vulcans.
Yeah,
and it's like, no. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, look, there's a watching post that's hidden on Andoria or wherever they were. Of Vulcans watching the Andorians. And that's interesting. And
it is, because it's like you think, oh, the Vulcans are all lovable, peace and love, and then you're like, wow, what a bunch of dicks. And you know what's so funny? you bring that up, and it's like it goes back to this Albert Schweitzer quote that I got from a Young Indiana Jones show. I mean, I know people didn't like that show, but it was very well written. There were some episodes that were very outstanding. And he meets Dr. Albert Schweitzer, who's out in the jungles there helping people and stuff. And he says, so I'm paraphrasing, but it's like understanding comes from, or knowledge comes from understanding, and from understanding comes acceptance. So you can't go around hating everybody because you just don't understand why they hate something or why they don't trust something. But once you get to know and understand things more, you might not agree with it, but you can accept it. And that's how that's how world peace, or that's how anything starts. Once you get into this acceptance level, like, okay, I'm not going to change you, but I agree to disagree, and we're just going to move forward. And that's like Star Trek back then. It's like the Vulcans didn't trust this, the Vulcans weren't nice, and you're like, wow, all this stuff that you just assumed they got along well. You start seeing the nitty gritty, and you're like, wow, there's like internal conflict. Because you know why? Because Roddenberry, he set that up where like there's no more conflict. We're all peaceful. There's no racism. There's no sexism.
Right.
That's great, but it doesn't have good stories. And I think other people said that was the problem when he was on Next Gen. There's no conflict. There's no stories. You can't have everything about everything's perfect in this world, and there's no food. There's no money. We don't need any of that stuff. It's like, well, you do that for story reasons, you know?
Right,
So,
right. Wayne says Vulcans are very logical and will want to know what's happening on other United Federation planet members. I slightly disagree. I guess basically, but honestly, I do think it's just a level of not trusting. In the case of the humans, they haven't evolved far enough, and the Andorians being hothead, shoot from the hip people that they can't be trusted either. I think it really is much more than just wanting to know what's going on. I think it is a level of mistrust. And again, it's I can understand that.
Did you ever? Do you know who the writer was, or was it Shatner, or was DeForest Kelley, who said in the '60s when they were writing Star Trek, they almost had a parallel to what was going on in the world? Like the Klingons were supposed to be like the Russians, and the United States was the Federation, and was it the Vulcans? No, the Romulans were Chinese. Like it was like everything was almost like the world we live in, but it was just sections, you know? Yeah. I don't know who said that, if it was real or not, but I remember that quote somewhere.
No, that I've read that as well, and I believe it, and that's fine. Again, they found a way, even in those '60s Star Trek episodes, to come to a level of understanding. And I mean, God, from
I'm saying, do you think they could tell those type of stories now with like analogies to world politics and world groups, or they wouldn't let them do that now?
No, they're doing it. I mean, they're doing it more socially, geopolitically.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course they are. Absolutely, they're doing it. I mean, my God.
On Discovery, or which one, though, are we talking
well, I think on all of them to a degree, because I think the xenophobia came through in Picard, and then further advanced 1,000 years later, where Discovery is now in season 3 and season 4 coming up, where Earth is no longer part of the Federation. They're so xenophobic. They've walled them.
Yeah, they got that wall. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So yeah, no, and I'm disappointed, because again, I think the more staying in tune with Roddenberry.
Yeah.
I think if you keep moving forward, because that it was fun. I was listening to the Inglorious Treksperts, Mark Altman's podcast that he does with Ashley Miller and Darren Dockerman. And they were reading the TV show Bible for Next Generation.
Yeah, I have one of those too.
And they're like, to explain, and they literally were like picking apart in the Bible. This series will be about exploring new worlds and seeking out new lives and new civilizations.
Right.
We haven't been getting that in Discovery.
No, not at all.
That in Picard.
Because it's all bottled shows. It's all about them. It's not about what's out there. It's all about Michael Burnham's problems every week. It's like, what the, you know? Oh.
Well, and you can still show those problems, but have the general story be about encountering a different alien race, and because you're encountering them,
have you learned any new race in the 4 years that Discovery's been on, or 3 full years? What new alien race have you really learned about?
They had and we haven't learned much. We had a couple surface moments where you have the Earth colony that's in the faraway planet, and they've merged all the religions, and that was one.
Oh yeah, that was one.
2 Pike episodes. There was the Crystal Planet from season 1, and I wish I could give you more. Whatever.
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying. Look at this. Deep Space Nine. You learned about the Cardassians. You learned about the Jem'Hadar. You learned about the Bajorans. You learned about so many different. I mean, in-depth details about their histories, their cultures, their things. You go to Voyager. Even then, when they had the worst aliens with the worst hair ever, the Kazons. You even learned about them, and that wasn't even well done. But it's like Discovery's yet to give me a brand new alien species that's got all new whatever, a new culture, new looks or whatever. And you have the You have Doug
I was going to
Jones's
say, you have
character.
the Kelpians. But
Yeah. Why don't we know more? We knew more about the Vulcans in 3 years than we do about him in 4.
I'll be honest. I think they've written a poor alien race in the Kelpians. I don't believe the premise. I don't believe in Saru.
Yeah.
And his choices that he has made that are so alien to his civilization that it makes me think less of him as a character. And that idiot storyline of season 3 with the Kelpian screaming,
the scream that stopped
wiping out dilithium. So unfortunately, these writers are not capable of writing other civilizations.
No, I heard Steve Englehart on a podcast today. The writer Steve Englehart's comic books and stuff. He was talking about his run on Captain America in the 70s. I know it's off the target, but I'll bring it back. It said he wrote a story about where Nixon, was the head of the secret empire, and Captain America found out about it. And in the story, he puts a gun to his head and kills himself, and Cap gives up being Cap and becomes Nomad. Right. And he said he couldn't do that story nowadays for Captain America because he said all the stuff that was going on with Trump and the riots and all that. It's like, where's the great Captain America story that's supposed to reflect on the world that we live in that they got to do in the 70s? Because he had no interference from editorial. They said, just, write some stories, and they were selling. So everybody left him alone. Look at the world we live in now. You think the comics would be a reflection? No, they don't touch that because Disney doesn't want to rock the boat. I get that. So, but going back to Star Trek, but he said the problem with writing now, and he used a show that I haven't watched. It's on HBO. It's something called The White Lotus. He said he thinks the guy went into the pitch meeting, pitched it to the network. They bought it. He said the story's going to be about this, and this is what happens. And they said, good, go do it. And now the guy's got the money, so he's got to write and produce the story. So he's writing it week to week, and the characters are all going their own way. And then suddenly when it ended, none of it made sense. And he said he thinks what happened is the guy said, well, here's the ending. And I just have to fill it with shows until we get there. And then as they're going along the way, they're realizing that the characters are writing themselves and they're becoming different storylines. And then they go, oh, no, we're done. We got to wrap this up. Same thing with Star Trek. They have the premise. They know they're out there on Discovery. They got these cool characters on paper. There's a 2-paragraph little description of what the character is going to be. And you're like, yeah. And then when they hit the ground running, they don't go anywhere. And then it's like, oh, we've just gone through 13 episodes. How many times you and me and Frank have watched every week? And you give the countdown. There's only 2 more episodes left. And you keep going, well, when is it going to get good? When are they actually going to come together? And then Lower Decks finally starts getting their feet on the ground. You only got 1 more episode. It's like,
but they've been greenlit for another season.
Why didn't you write this? Why don't you sit in a room and sit there and go, let's have a story arc. Let's have this and let's have that. And
again,
it's lacking.
Even going back to your Captain America analogy, a couple things. I believe there are powers that be above them that are saying, no, that doesn't work. You're going to have to rewrite it.
And the corporate
what's that?
And the corporation, like Disney?
Yes. Yeah. That in the case of Star Trek, yes, Paramount or CBS, really. That somebody above is saying.
But why though? Because of stockholders? What's the reason?
Because honestly, what you described about Captain America, what Englehart said, Ed Brubaker, and this is pre-Trump.
Yeah.
Ed Brubaker had militiamen and ultra conservatives in his comic.
Yep.
Fox is like, hey, look what this bullshit is with Captain America, and complained. And somebody upstairs at Marvel told Ed, you got to pull back.
No shit, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And also, Ed got death threats.
No, really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, fuck.
Absolutely. I love Ed is a fearless, brilliant writer.
Yeah.
And I believe those kind of editorial, no, you can't do that.
Death threats over a comic book.
Yeah, but also the pressure of doing 18 issues a year instead of just 12. I think that combination of editorial interference and 18 issues, it's like, fuck this. I don't know.
Plus, back in Englehart's point was back then in the 70s, Marvel was its own entity.
Right.
They weren't part of a big corporation, the board. Yeah. They were a standalone little company, sell some books. Oh, it sold that well? Keep doing what you're doing. That's it.
Do you think they would have had at DC Terra and Deathstroke?
No.
Teenage Terra, underage Terra, screwing Deathstroke. I mean,
we've talked about that.
Marv and I talked about it on a panel in front of hundreds, and I'm like, "Am I nuts?" And he said, "No, there's no way they would have done that."
No.
And then he goes, "No," and I get it. And I goes, "And I would never write a story like that in modern day."
Yeah.
So, but there you go. All right.
So that's that. So we tried to figure out the mystery of Star Trek.
No, and we did good. We did good tangents today. So, hey, Mitch, I didn't even yell at you. Wow.
No, I know. You know what it is? Really deep down, it's Franco. That's why we fight. It's not us. It's Franco. He's just like,
what a piece of shit.
He just turns up the heat. He's just like, you know, the thing that was on Star Trek with the kids, the thing that showed up, you know, when they're all the angel.
Yeah, Mary.
Yeah, no, was it Mary?
Yeah.
No, it was the one where the kids
down there where they had
it was Melvin Belli.
No, that's The Children Will Lead.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
That's the
Franco is really that evil angel that shows up and gets us all mad at each other. It's him.
2 different episodes. Okay,
fine.
Because they didn't have mine.
All rotted away. That scared the shit out of me as a kid. I was so frightened.
He was just in a weird moo because of his
size. Was he a big guy? Is that what it was? He was a big dude? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at old Mel.
I just remember the flesh was all, and that was one where the kids' parents all died. And they were showing like the little tombstones, and they were all still playing with the ball. And it's like, your mother and father are dead. They're like, okay, let's play with a ball now.
I hate that episode. So that is probably
the worst
one. The one episode of all of Star Trek. That I have no desire to ever see.
No, I don't either. Whenever I go to watch, I skip that one. I don't. Oh, that one with the angel. Not watching that. No. It's just dark and disturbing for reasons I can't tell you why. I go, maybe because the kids' parents were all dead and they didn't give a shit.
It didn't help. But it was funny. Mark DeMatteis and I were talking on Tuesday.
Yeah.
He's like, I've been binging a lot of original series. And he goes, I'm on the 3rd season. And he goes, there's a lot of good 3rd season episodes.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. Well, but that is the original series season that gets the most maligned.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But that said, and there are clunkers in there, like And the Children Shall Lead.
And I am Dr. Janice. What's her name?
Janice Lester. I like that.
I'm Janice Lester. I'm a woman in a man's body.
And again, it's kind of misogynistic, and it's
now it is, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, don't put a woman in charge.
I know, but it's so weird to watch it now. Like, what the hell?
Oh, you see, and honestly, I think Shatner is acting his ass off. Playing a woman inside of a man.
Yeah.
Mutiny. It's mutiny. And also, God, just even during the whole trial.
Yeah.
And Scotty, we're talking about.
I like when Kirk, is it the 3rd season when Kirk gets old? Where he's losing his hair?
Deadly Years.
No. Was that his real hair? I always wondered. That's what it really looks like under there? Or it did back then?
I don't know. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Look at me. Am I really old? And she's just like, it's kind of like Abe Lincoln and Mary Lincoln. Does this dress make you look fat?
Yeah. No.
Well, perhaps from he's like, it's awesome in that Geico commercial. He's like, was Honest Abe always Honest Abe? And they cut to him and she's like, does this dress make you look fat? And he's like, well, perhaps from that angle. And
angle. You look fine. You look fine. Oh, no, it was good. It's good. I watched What If too, by the way, the season finale. That was a good show.
Was it good?
Well, we didn't get to talk about it, but it was a good show.
We can talk next week. It's cool.
Next week. We'll all be back together. Franco can tell us how New York Comic Con was because I'm staying home and so are you. So
and we'll have the delight of watching Shatner in space.
And we'll be in Baltimore. Godspeed, Captain Kirk. In a couple weeks, we'll all be together. Maybe we can get like a whole thing in a room.
Absolutely. That'll be a lot of fun. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Great questions.
Bye.
Thank you for listening as well. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye, everybody. Live long and prosper. Later.
Bye.